Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we are looking at when Horus Lupercal discovered the Flaw in the Blood Angels. So as usual, spoiler warning to begin, these events are from the Horus Heresy novel Fear to Tread by James Swallow, and it's a great read, dedicated to Sanguinius and his sons. So if you're a Blood Angels fan, you definitely need to check this novel out if you haven't already, and even if you're not, I still thoroughly recommend it, because you will be a fan of the Blood Angels by the end of the novel. As always, I really recommend you read the books or listen to the audiobooks yourself first, as that's the best way to get the enjoyment out of the lore. Not only that, we help to support Games Workshop and the Great Black Library, as without them, we wouldn't have all these great lore stories to discuss with each other. But with that said, let's jump straight in. So this novel is set during the Great Crusade, where Sanguinius has been campaigning with his brother Horus. After the battle, however, Sanguinius has been informed of one of his sons having been lost, to which Sanguinius knows the true meaning to mean lost to the first. So, having excused himself from Horus's company, he's been taken to his lost son. In a berserk, furious rage that exploded out of nothing, the legionary tore across the Empath Chapel in a great splashing bound. The Primarch hesitated. With power sword, glaive blade, or Infernus pistol, he would have been no matter for him to draw a weapon and end the battle brother's life before he came within arm's reach. But something stopped him. Perhaps it was hope. Hope that Alatros would be the one to break the cycle and not do the same as those before. Or perhaps it was guilt, some measure of punishment inflicted on the self to see this horror up close, to know the dying moment of it. Against all reason, against all possibility of survival, Alatros attacked his gene father. The warrior wanted only one thing, to bite deep into living flesh and drink his fill of the rich crimson fluid within. He was truly lost. Sanguinius held Alatros at bay, the warrior's maddened blows ringing harmlessly off his battle armour. The fires of his rage not fading, but burning brighter with every passing moment. The cocktail of blood fumes caught on his breath. Sanguinius understood. He knew where this crimson fury, this red thirst sprang from. He could sense it, coiled like a poisonous thread inside his own genetic helix. A dark bequest that he had passed on to his kin, a recessive death mark. "I am sorry, my son," he told Alatros, in the last heartbeat before he broke the legionary's neck. Alatros's snarls ended with a guttural hiss, and at the end there was some brief measure of peace in his eyes. His body fell into the shallow pool. The Blood Angel's pain was at an end, a final mercy granted to him. But now the darkness in the gloomy alien church seemed shades deeper, heavy with the weight of what had been done here. For the second time that day, Sanguinius sensed the presence of his brother. He wheeled, turning to glare into the dimness as a massive shadow broke away from a slumped support column and stood stock still before him. "Horus? What did you do?" His brother's face caught the light, and the ghost of shock was etched upon it. "What did you do?" The sound of his voice seemed to jolt the other Primarch out of his stasis, and he rushed towards the fallen warrior. "You killed him." Now it's worth remembering this is pre-Heresy Horus, not even War Master Horus yet. He's still Primarch of the Lunar Wolves. The sight of his brother killing one of his own sons must be absolutely absurd to him. Yet Sanguinius is one of his closest brothers. In a strangely protective gesture, Sanguinius stepped in front of the corpse, bringing Horus up short. "You followed me?" His tone betrayed anger and surprise, shame and regret, and 100 other emotions. "Spied on me?" It was taking all of Horus's monumental self-control to stay where he stood, the confusion on his face shifting, changing. He was grasping to comprehend what he had just witnessed, and failing. A Primarch executing one of his own sons? The thought of such a thing was terrible to contemplate. "You should not be here," Sanguinius told him, echoing Askelion's reproach. This was not for the eyes of outsiders. His words were dead, bled dry. "That seems so," Horus gave a glum nod. "But I am your brother. I am not an outsider." He raised his head and met the angel's gaze, challenging him. "And I do not understand why you have committed such a hateful deed." Sanguinius did not bother to ask Horus how he had made it past Raldoron's guards. He was a Primarch, after all, and the Emperor's sons had always been adept at going where their will took them. When Horus looked at him, it was not with anger and disappointment, but with a terrible kind of empathy. "I should not have come here. But your reaction when the first captain spoke, brother, what I saw in your eyes at that moment, gave me cause for concern." He stepped around and knelt over Alatros's body. "And now I see I was right to think so." Horus studied the dead legionary with a clinical eye and raised his gauntlet to tap upon his temple. "Tell me there was cause. What was wrong with him? Did the Nephilim do this? Did they cause some great damage to his mind?" The lie caught in the angel's throat. "Yes," he could say, "a terrible tragedy. This is the work of the foul Xenos. I was forced to take a regrettable action." No. The falsehood crumbled before it was fully formed. He could no more lie to his sibling than he could chain Melchior's sun and pull it from the sky. Horus and Sanguinius knew each other so well that to lie to one another would be a monumental undertaking, a pretense of ultimate artifice. He could not conscience such a thing. "No, Horus, this is my fault. The blame lies with me." For a long moment, there was only silence between them, and the angel could see his brother's train of thought, the questions he was asking himself, the answer he found wanting. At last, Horus stood and placed a hand on his brother's shoulder, the stony lines of his face etched in disquiet. "If you wish it, I will leave this place now and never speak of this matter again. Your legion is your concern, Sanguinius, and I would never question that." He paused. "But I am your brother and your friend, and it cuts me to see the sorrow in your eyes. I know you are a compassionate soul, and that you would do no such thing unless it was your only choice. But you have a great burden, and I would help you carry it, if only you will let me." Now, for all the wrong that Horus will do later, here he is displaying why he was beloved by so many of his brothers. The act he just witnessed Sanguinius commit is absolutely crazy to him. He could never fathom doing such a thing. But he wants to know why Sanguinius has had to do such a thing. There must be a valid reason. There must. He's Sanguinius, for Emperor's sake. But he even offers to walk away from it and never speak of it again. That must endear him to his brother a lot. It shows how much trust and care he has for him. As he says, "I am your brother and your friend." I think so much time has passed in the Horus Heresy series, we forget about this Horus. He's been the villain for so long now that we've kind of forgotten the ideal that Horus actually was. It makes the upcoming duel between them at the siege all the more poignant. They were truly great brothers and friends. Horus has fallen so far. The Blood Angel's eyes narrowed. "You ask much." "I always do," admitted Horus. "Speak to me. Make me understand." He was almost imploring. "I swear to you, on the honour of my legion, any words spoken here will never pass beyond these walls. I will keep your confidence from all." Sanguinius met his gaze. Even from our father? The other Primarch said nothing for a moment. Then at last, he nodded. Again, Horus agreeing to not mention it to the Emperor. How can it not endear him to Sanguinius? It also highlights again that the Primarchs were not all feuding rivalries. There was genuine brother relationships between them also. And they are the moments I appreciate and enjoy witnessing the most. You know, you get to see the human interaction between the Primarchs against these elevated demigods. To me, it makes the heresy all the more impactful when we get these genuine family moments between them. These bonds of brotherhood. At length, Sanguinius turned to face Horus. "We were made to be perfect," he began. "Tools of war, the supreme princes of battle." He slowly spread his hands and the white wings curled at his back. "Do you think that Father succeeded in his design?" "Perfection is not a state of being," Horus replied. "It is a state of striving. The journey is all that has meaning, not the goal." "Did the Phoenician tell you that?" His brother nodded once. "Fulgrim may be a peacock, but when he spoke those words, he was right." Sanguinius laid a hand on Alatros's steeled chest. "We give so much to our sons. Our aspect, our will, our fortitude. They are the best of us, but they carry our flaws as well." "So they should," said Horus. "So we should. To be human is to be flawed. No matter what we are or where we come from, we are still human. We share the same ancestry as the people we defend." Indeed, if we lost that connection, if we truly were beyond humanity, then the Emperor's sons and the Legiones Astartes would have more kinship to Xenos like them. Sanguinius gestured towards the corpse of the Nephilim blueskin. "Than to children of terror." He shook his head. "But for all that we are, we cannot escape what is within." The angel pressed his fingers to his chest. "I have bequeathed something dark to my sons, brother." "Speak plainly," Horus demanded. "I am not Russ who would judge you, or Dawn who would not listen. You and I, we have no need for pretense." A great few passages there. Firstly, the Primarchs relating to humanity. In a previous upload, we have discussed how Malcador said to Horus how he could not rule humanity if he did not relate to it. And here, we have them understanding that as far elevated as they are still human. To be human is to be flawed. No matter what we are or where we come from, we are still human. That's a great line. "I believe that there is a hidden flaw in the genetic matrix of the Blood Angel's gene seed. Something in my own biotype. I have looked within myself and seen glimpses of it, brother. A murky core, a trait that lies buried and waits to be awakened." Horus's gaze fell on the dead warrior. "This is the fury that I saw in him? It cries out for blood, and there is never enough." The Lunar Wolf turned away, thinking, how many times? Alatros is one of several that I am certain of. There may have been others who perished in battle without note of it. A handful? In 200 years? From a legion of 120,000? Horus folded his armoured gauntlets together. "How can you be sure of?" Sanguinius held up his hand. "I am sure," he said gravely. "And the incidences are coming closer together. I fear that, in time, it will grow to encompass every one of my sons. In my meditation, I have seen such possibilities." His brother waited for him to continue. Each of the Primarchs were touched by their father's preternatural gifts in a different way, and for Sanguinius, part of that legacy was a certain kind of sight, a hazy, indefinite sense of foreknowledge. The story is always the same, he went on. A warrior in the throes of battle succumbs to a rage that builds and builds until reason is list. His humanity is tripped away until only a feral core remains. He kills and kills, seeks blood and more blood. He paled as he spoke. And at the end, at the very worst of it, he loses every last piece of himself. Until death is a kindness, Horus nodded again. Brother, I understand now. How long have you known? Strangely, as Sanguinius had given voice to the words, he felt the load upon him lighten, as if the act of confiding in Horus had indeed lessened his burden. I have kept this from our father and brothers for several years. I am searching for a solution. Some among my sons have a measure of the truth. They are united with me in finding a way of undoing this flaw. His jaw stiffened. My flaw. Brother, Horus began, framing his words. Sanguinius shook his head. Don't say it. You think I blame myself for something I have no control over, but I do not agree. This is my legacy, and I must account for it. A Primarch. He faltered over the words, his voice thick with emotion. A Primarch is father to his legion, said Horus, completing the thought for him. I will not disagree, or try to convince you otherwise. Who else is aware of the full dimensions of this? Horus glanced towards the entrance of the fallen chapel. Askelion, Captain Ralderon, my master apothecary, and a few others. When Horus spoke again, his voice was low. Why in terror's name did you not ask for help? Sanguinius met his gaze. Tell me, Horus, what is it that you are most afraid of? The demand took the other Primarch off guard, and for a moment, the Lunar Wolf was on the verge of dismissing the question. Then, his expression shifted, and he gave a brutally truthful answer. Falling short of failing my legion, my Imperium, my Emperor. Something each of his sons shares, even if many of us would not have the courage to admit it. Sanguinius walked away, the shadows lengthening around him. I could not speak of this to any others. You know as well as I do that it would diminish my legion. Some of our brothers would see it as weakness and seek to turn this truth against me, he grimaced. Alfarius? Lorgar? They would not be generous. I found that really interesting. I certainly would not have picked out Alfarius and Lorgar being two Primarchs who would have misgivings about Sanguinius and his legion should the flaw be revealed. I'd really like to see some more interactions to kind of build this relationship for us. We've seen it little if any interaction between Sanguinius and Alfarius or Lorgar. We need some more background to go with this, because that was really a curveball for me. Alfarius and Lorgar, really? But why have you kept this from Father? If any living being could know the key to it, it would be him. Sanguinius rounded on Horus, his seraphic features hardening. You know the reason, he answered with a snarl. I would not have a third empty plinth beneath the roof of the Hermegmon as my legion's only memorial. Horus's eyes widened. It would not come to that. Sanguinius shook his head once more. I cannot take the risk. The Emperor has concerns that go far beyond the needs of his individual sons. You know that is so, he frowned. We all know that is so. Silence fell again, broken only by the hollow wind pulling at the ruined walls of the temple. Then, with a grim finality, Horus offered his hand to the angel. I swore to you I would say nothing of this. I will keep that promise for as long as you wish me to. Sanguinius accepted the gesture, their vambraces clanking together as they shook hands in the old pre-unity fashion, palms grasping each other's wrists. I trust no one more than you, Horus, he said. Your solidarity means more than I can express. I will do all I can to help you deal with this matter, said the Lunar Wolf, however long it takes. And there we have it. A great interaction between the brothers. Sanguinius not wishing to speak to his father about it, as he fears the Emperor would just wipe out his legion. Again, another tease as to why maybe the two missing legions are not with us. Could they perhaps have had some kind of flaw? It would have been something pretty drastic, considering Sanguinius has wings of an angel himself. You know, the Emperor designed their gene seed. He's most likely fully aware of the flaw already. He could have even put it in intentionally, along with the Canis Helix of the Wolves, to make them his two savage weapon legions. Each Primarch and Legion was designed for a purpose, of course. And yes, we have the World Eaters, but the Emperor didn't design the Butcher's nails in Angron's head after all. How would have the Emperor reacted? I mean, we'll never know. I don't think, however, he would have erased the Blood Angels. I think more Sanguinius may have found a greater level of understanding if he had actually spoken to the Emperor about it. It's an unfortunate byproduct of the way you were made, perhaps. And again, Horus keeping Sanguinius' secret, helping his brother get some of the burden off of his back, so to speak. Again, it's a really great scene in showing us the bond of Horus with some of his brothers. You know, and highlighting the shame of his fall. For all of his arrogant streak and pride that he has, he also has a strong set of virtues, like his compassion here. Goes to really highlight why some of his brothers joined his side. But what did you guys think? Leave me a comment down below as usual. A huge thank you to all of my subscribers. I truly appreciate all of the support, guys. It really means a lot to me. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow, joining the great community we've got here. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not consider dropping a like on it too. Now, the next few vids are going to be centered around a particular Primarch who's getting a lot of buzz lately, if you keep up with the news. And if you're not sure about who that is, well, how does loyalty is its own reward sound? But that's it for today, and with that said, I will see you guys again real soon.